Hi, everyone. I'm Joanne Montgomery, and I'm the Chief Clinical and Outreach Officer for Liberation Programs. And with me today is Maggie Young, our Chief Recovery Officer, Fiona Wilkes, our Director of Development, and our special guest today is Dr. Zane Saul. So for those of you who don't know Dr. Saul, he's an infectious disease and internal medicine doctor who's been practicing in the Stratford area for over 35 years. And he is also the Chief of Infectious Disease for Bridgeport Hospital. So Dr. Saul, we want to thank you for speaking to our agency today. We have a couple of questions that we'd like to ask you about COVID. So starting with our first question would be, why do you recommend the COVID vaccine?
Okay, so the history repeats itself. And right now we're in the worst pandemic that we've been in over 100 years. The way that we obliterate viral pandemic is by vaccines. You've heard of smallpox, you've heard of polio. All of the great pandemics that have existed in the past are only eradicated when we develop vaccines. This is the only way we have to eradicate large number of populations and provide immunity to stop the virus in its track. So that's why we all need to wait our turn and get in line and get our COVID vaccine. If you get the Moderna or Pfizer vaccine, it's a series of 2, but soon there will be 2 new ones coming out, one by Johnson & Johnson and one by AstraZeneca, which is only 1 shot, 1 time only. They're highly effective. They're very safe. They've been tested on thousands and thousands of people, and the side effect profile is very safe. There are some mild side effects that may occur, but no serious side effects have been reported. And again, this is how we're going to stop COVID, period, by having the population of the world vaccinated.
Perfect. Thank you.
So Dr. Saul, thank you for that. So what would your response be to people who say that there's over a 90% survival rate who feel a vaccine is not necessary?
So, you know, sad to say, I don't wish this on anybody to have to walk through the ICU of my hospital, where we currently have a 21-year-old asthmatic fighting for his life. It's the 90% is a number which can't be represented to everybody. This poor fella is struggling, and I've seen it happen in others. I've seen 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds. It's random. You don't have to have comorbidities. You don't have to be sick. Sometimes the virus just escalates and attacks multiple parts of your body, and you find yourself struggling to fight your life, when you could prevent this from happening by getting a vaccine. So don't risk the unpredictability of this coronavirus. It's unpredictable, and it will and can progress to life-threatening situations, and if not, a lot of morbidity and mortality. I just read a report today about people, long haulers, that have been sick for months and months after they recovered from the acute phase of COVID, with respiratory symptoms, neurologic symptoms, psychiatric symptoms, gastrointestinal symptoms. This is not a walk in the park. Maybe for some people it is, but for some people, it's a very serious, debilitating illness, and it's not worth taking that chance. The vaccines are safe and very effective.
Thank you. So next question, how do you respond to all the conspiracy theories out there? It's going to change your DNA, the government's putting a chip in you, things like that.
Yeah, so none of these conspiracy theories are backed by science, okay? And right now, we are back in this new administration. We're following science, okay? The science says this: the vaccines are nearly 95% effective in preventing COVID-19 from making you so sick that you end up in the hospital and perhaps losing your life. I have had both of my COVID vaccines. I am perfectly fine. Talk to anybody that's had either 1 or 2 of their vaccines. Maybe you get a little soreness at the site. Maybe you have a little malaise for 24 hours or less, but otherwise it's very safe and very effective. None of the conspiracy theories are backed by fact.
So what about, Dr. Saul, what about the myth that you can get COVID from the vaccine?
You can't get COVID from these vaccines because these are not live or even attenuated viruses. These are messenger RNA vaccines that only teach your cells immunity how to fight the virus. So you can definitely not get COVID from this vaccine. There is no COVID in this vaccine.
Wow, good to know.
Not dead or alive.
Wow. What do you say to those, doctor, when someone says that there wasn't enough people in the trial and the trial wasn't long enough?
Listen, we're in a pandemic situation, okay? We don't have years to wait to get to a number that would satisfy everybody. It satisfies the FDA, it satisfied the scientists, and they've all endorsed its use. The most important thing is that it's efficacious and that it's safe. What are the long-term implications? We're not going to know, but this is a novel coronavirus. We don't have time to wait and find out what the long-term implications are. The long-term implications are that we don't do anything and we don't take the vaccine. COVID will continue to kill lots and lots of people.
Wow.
Thank you. So once we get both our vaccines, if we come in contact with someone who is exposed to or COVID positive, will we still need to quarantine?
So that's a good question. We don't know yet if even a vaccinated person can be an asymptomatic carrier. So the answer to the question is going to be yes. Right now, the state of Connecticut on their website says, yes, vaccination status doesn't matter. If you've traveled or if you've come in contact with an exposure, you still have to go through the process of quarantining and or getting tested after a certain amount of time. The other part of that, which I'd like to expand on, is after you get vaccinated, it doesn't mean you stop wearing masks. It doesn't mean you stop social distancing. It means that you continue to be safe, because if you do get exposed to COVID after you've had the vaccine, what they're saying perhaps is that maybe it will appear like a mild cold. And then that's the worst that could happen to you after you've been vaccinated if you get exposed to COVID.
Do you believe, Dr. Saul, that this vaccine will become yearly like the flu, or we don't have enough information yet?
That's what it looks like. You hear them talk in the media about these variants that are showing up in California and South Africa. So that's typically what viruses do. They start to change little tiny bit on the outer protein. My feeling is that, yes, we're probably going to see a once a year, whether it's just a booster or whether it's every year. But I think we're going to be doing this for a while until we have it all covered. Look at the flu shot. You know, flu changes every 6 months. And every year we get a flu shot to protect against those strains. It's the same principle. Whether or not they can incorporate it right into the flu shot is to be determined. But that'd be great if we have to get one. But if we have to get two, if that's what it takes to stay healthy, that's what we do.
So as a follow-up to that, you kind of answered my next question, which is how long would we be protected? Are you saying that we don't know yet as to exactly how long, but we definitely will likely need to take it at least once a year?
That's what it sounds like now. They say that you get about a year's protection from the vaccines that are out now, which means probably sometime next year, next December or January, there'll probably need to be another vaccine that includes the variants in it, and then we'll take it from there. We'll see. The natural course of viruses is that they do change a little bit on their own. And now that we have this technology, we'll just try to stay one step ahead. So I do believe that we will be taking additional vaccines going forward. Yes.
One last question, Dr. Saul. Is there anyone in the population that you do not recommend the vaccine for?
So
Based on
anybody that's
medical-
had right. Nobody that has food allergies, nobody that has drug allergies, they should all get the vaccine. The only people that should not get the vaccine is if they've had anaphylaxis to a vaccine in the past. So you had a vaccine, you developed an anaphylactic reaction, which means you had to go to the hospital and get adrenaline and get steroids and Benadryl and all those things from a vaccine. People that have had multiple allergies to other things like foods or drugs have done perfectly fine getting this vaccine.
Perfect. Does anybody, go ahead,
Quickly,
Fiona.
I have two follow-up questions from what you said, Dr. Saul. Just to the last one, I've read different studies. So what about for folks who, pregnant women, are they, is that safe for pregnant women to get the vaccine, or is it better to wait?
I'm glad you asked that question because that's very important. Pregnant women should indeed get this vaccine. And in the Yale New Haven Health System, yes, we vaccinated our pregnant employees, and it's very important. Pregnant women are at a somewhat higher risk of progression of disease with viruses. We see it with the flu, and so we speculate that it could be that way with COVID. So yes, we would highly recommend that pregnant women get the vaccine.
Great, thank you.
And they're studying it in kids. It's not yet been approved in kids yet, but they are studying it in children.
Okay, that's great. And just my other question, when you mentioned that, you can't get COVID from the vaccine because it doesn't have actual COVID in it, does that mean getting the vaccine, does that give you antibodies, or is that only from a live infection?
No, it gives you antibodies, yes.
Okay.
Yep. It teaches your body how to produce antibodies against this M spike protein that's on the COVID virus on the outside.
And one
Thank you very
last
much.
question, Dr. Saul, because we service a lot of clients with HIV in our agency, and we know that you're an HIV expert. We know that there hasn't been a lot of study with people with HIV. What is your recommendation to people living with HIV?
Everybody with HIV needs to get this vaccine, period. Yes, 100%.
Is that one of the conditions that is sort of on that list of people who could potentially get the vaccine sooner?
It is considered an immune suppressing condition. So I don't know where it's going to land on the list. I think the state is not done vaccinating all of our 75 and olders. So as soon as we get done with that, they're going to move into the next phase, which will include people with immune suppressive illnesses, of which HIV would fit into. So stay tuned. Keep in touch with your health department, and they will direct us on who, the order in which the vaccine will be rolled out.
And really one final question, Dr. Saul,
Okay.
in your practice, are you seeing within the Black and Brown communities any positive results of having more individuals actually get vaccinated?
So we haven't really rolled the vaccine out yet into the community, right? So just for the 75 or olders, a lot of the nursing homes, mostly it's been healthcare workers, which on the most part are a bit more healthcare educated. So yes, virtually everybody has taken the vaccine in the healthcare environment. It'll be interesting to see about the community when we start rolling it out into the community. But some of the worst outcomes have been in the brown and Black populations, lower income populations that don't have such easy access to healthcare. These have been some of the outcomes, and it's been unfortunate. We've seen people, the entire family test positive for COVID, and basically stayed at home until they couldn't breathe because they just didn't have access to healthcare. So the vaccine is going to be especially important in all communities, but particularly in the lower income communities as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saul, for taking your time today to meet with us. We appreciate it. And stay healthy.
Good luck.
All right,
I hope
you all.
I
Nice
hope this is
meeting you.
effective in
Alrighty.
educating your clients and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you
so
all.
much. Stay
Dr.
safe.
Saul,
Have a great day.
likewise. All
Thank
right,
you.
as
Take
well.
care.
Bye.
Bye.